Item number 4, the tax assessor request for an $18,000 to retain Jard and Davis Law Firm for services. I'm at a loss for what that's for. Why we need to retain a law firm.
Mr. Lewis, would you like to tell us?
Yes, sir. The board recently made a decision to retain an attorney for the purpose of.
David, would you please come up here, please, where everybody can
I can talk louder.
All right.
My teachers used to get on to me for that in school, and that's all they talk about now. So I'll just talk a little louder, if that's okay. Basically, our intent is for the purpose of handling cases, in addition to providing legal advice to the board with regard to all types of different things that we normally have to deal with, Board of Equalization, taxpayers, court cases that we may or may not find ourselves in, or at least legal advice. Legal advice as far as our employees, policies, meetings, that we stay within the bounds of the law for all of our meetings, executive sessions, that sort of thing, so that we can make good decisions on that. Other matters that deal with law and with policy. This is not necessarily uncommon for a Board of Assessors to retain representation. We actually, I believe, as a board, not necessarily this particular board, but previous boards have sought legal advice outside of the county attorney, particularly for matters that were specific to a particular field, particularly tax, for tax purposes or values, and in the defense for the county of those values and the digest. And, we actually ask advice on occasion. I think even our county attorney has actually asked some advice of some folks. Julius Hulls is one of them I know that we've used. Although that's not the law firm that we chose. We have a lot of unresolved cases, some that go back to 2010 in particular, that we'd like to get resolved as well. We feel that the Board of Assessors needs to have representation that they feel like represents them and the board in the best interest, and without any type of conflict or without any kind of conflict of interest. We have recently we had a situation where the county attorney had a client that the county attorney was representing, and we were informed that there could be a possible conflict of interest with that particular case. It had to do with conservation without going into a great deal of detail. And we were advised that if this were go to appeal, or if it were go to go to court, that she would not be representing us, but would be representing that client. And at that point, we were under the impression that we could be without representation of the county or the Board of Assessors, or however you want to describe it, with the concern that we would be without representation at that point, and actually didn't have any legal advice available to us, because at that point, if we had not gotten that resolved, that was actually resolved without an issue. We recently had an executive session, a joint executive session that we were all a part of. We were advised by the county attorney's representative as to the bounds that we could operate under as far as in an executive session. We sat right there and had that discussion with Mr. Dawes, that as long as we were discussing possible litigation and personnel, that we were within the bounds of the law to enter into executive session. Subsequently, we entered into that session. We were at that point questioned by that same representative about things that were outside the bounds of what the meeting was supposed to be about. And you guys were there, you know, and I understand that there's a set of executive session minutes that were produced. I understand that the paper has the executive session minutes, and I would welcome anybody to look at those. I've not seen a copy, but I understand there is a copy, and I understand that there is a description of what was discussed in those minutes, and we felt like maybe we were not necessarily being represented appropriately even during that particular time. We didn't feel like that the advice that we got was appropriate based on the fact that the Board of Commissioners or the chairman or whoever decided to release those executive session minutes, that evidently we did something we shouldn't do. And based on that, I suppose it was based on that those minutes were released. I don't know. But I've not, like I said, I've not seen those, but I understand that they're available. It's the intent of the Board of Assessors to provide basically independent, fair, equitable values for the county. And there's a separation that I understand that they're supposed to be. That's with the entity that sets the millage rates. You folks set millage rates and budgets. We set values, and there's a reason that the state mandated that. And we felt like that at times we're not sure that we need to maintain that separation, I guess, to some extent, based on maybe some of the recent things that happened in the meetings. I mentioned the executive session. We feel like we need to have sound legal advice. We need to expeditiously move these cases along that we've had for a while. And I think it's important that the taxpayer, we represent taxpayers because we are taxpayers. As the board is, matter of fact, one of the qualifications for a Board of Assessors is that you are a taxpayer in the county. And there are some other qualifications, but in particular, I think that's an important one that's appointed by the Board of Commissioners. And we've been appointed once, and I think I've gotten a second appointment since having been on the board. But those are the reasons that we have, and we have matter of fact, the contract basically says exactly what I said. It's to provide legal advice and represent the board in whatever way, whether it be employment or cases or Board of Equalization or taxpayer advice in dealing with that sort of thing.
Anything you want to say to that?
So, from what I gather from what you have just stated is that if you could answer, I mean, why has this came up now? So in the past, that other boards of assessors have had to seek outside legal advice? I mean, because that kind of
There
troubles
was
me when I hear that our county attorney,
Yes.
I mean, how is that working, Ms. Doss? How can we
Could I
represent?
address some of the points that were just raised? There was this
I'd
file.
like to finish my question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I would like to know how our county attorney can represent an individual taxpayer against the county tax assessor's office. That's what I'd like to know. Yeah, and I would love for you to address some of it.
Well, actually, I represent an estate. I was appointed by a probate judge, a previous probate judge, to represent an estate. There was an issue with the continuation of the conservation. I understood the grant one way, the Board of Tax Assessors understood it a different way. I said, I could not represent you in this, I could not represent the estate. I would have to step down because I would have a conflict. I disclosed that to Ms. Galloway first and foremost. We ultimately resolved it the way they wanted it resolved. So the estate was able to back up and do something different to resolve it in the manner in which they wanted it resolved. But it wasn't, I was Lynn Doss, court-appointed administrator of an estate with will annexed. I was not representing the estate against the county because you can't do that. That's illegal. You can't represent one client against another. Nor could I have continued to represent the estate. I would have had to step down. Rather than doing that, we worked out, the estate backed up and conceded the point to the Board of Tax Assessors. There are pending cases in the Superior Court in which the tax assessors, Board of Tax Assessors and the Board of Equalization are parties. For each of those cases, periodically, the Superior Court will send out what's called a request for a case status announcement. Those have to be filed by me as the county attorney on behalf of the Board of Tax Assessors and the Board of Equalization. Each and every one of those are public records in the Office of the Clerk of Superior Court. Each and every one of those have a case status announcement of ready to try, ready to go ahead. We are waiting to be summoned by the Superior Court. I have no jurisdiction over when the Superior Court calls a case for trial, but I have announced ready to try each and every time. And we have settled some of those in mediation. We have settled some of those in informal mediation. We got a dismissal on one. We won one. There was a ruling in favor of the taxpayer on 4. One of those we had to pay costs. The other 3 just accepted the ruling and didn't request costs. So, as to pending Superior Court cases that they want moved along, I want them moved along too, but they will have to get the Superior Court to let us be the case on the docket. That's not something that anybody in this room can control.
So you're representing the tax assessors in those cases?
The taxes, I have appeared here in this room with the tax assessors before the Board of Equalization. I have appeared with the tax assessors in mediations, and I have worked with Ms. Galloway in getting dismissals on some that they resolved informally, and then I have appeared before Judge Messier and Judge Weaver in tax assessor cases. There has been in the past, there's been several times in the past where an issue would come up relative to the tax assessors that I didn't personally know the answer to. Like when I saw this contract, I had never seen a contract, but when the request for this amount was asked of me, I didn't know the answer. So I called 2 other county attorneys, and then I called ACCG to find out what the procedure was, what the rules and regulations were. Because there are often times that I do not know the answer to something, but if a question's asked of me, if you ask me a question tonight, oh, what was the rule on taxation of cattle? I wouldn't know the answer, but I could go and find the answer.
Yeah, I just got a few more questions. I mean, I see in this contract that you given to me right.
Can you speak into the mic, please? I'm hard of hearing.
I can talk loud. I see in the contract that was presented to us, I mean, one question I have is why $18,000? Is that something that, is that just what the law firm requires, or?
Well, we kind of went through it with them, gave them a little bit of review of what's going on, what we expect in the future, and that was a number that we determined would be sufficient in order to handle some cases that are coming and to keep, you know, them retained, and they felt like that was the proper amount, and we agreed to that, you know, that would be the amount that was needed. Kind of looking into the future, kind of seeing what may be coming. And it's in an escrow, so whatever's not used is returned, so it's not like that we're just giving them that money. They're just holding it in their escrow account. Whatever amounts we need to use, we use.
So you're basically, your board feels that you need outside representation.
Absolutely.
What I'm
Yes,
hearing.
sir, we do. And could I speak for 1 minute, please? Just to, you know, I'm holding this thing in my hand. I got 8 cases right here that are not resolved. Eagles, for example, out here, they appealed back in 2010, okay? We went into an agreement with them on October 2012. We're still waiting for the paperwork from the attorney to finish that case out. We've got 5 other cases with another gentleman here that are gonna have to be dealt with, and we just feel like we're not getting the information, the questions answered in a timely manner. I understand Lynn's a great attorney, that's fine and dandy. She is not really an attorney that specializes in the type of things that we do. These attorneys we're looking at do. We can pick up the phone, call them, and get an answer just like that, and sometimes we need that. I understand in legal cases and court cases, they might go on for years, but with tax assessment, we need to get that stuff done and finished it. And so we just feel like with everything that we've been through the last couple of years, it's time for us to get some legal representation for ourselves. And I would make one other point in the future. This is just my opinion. The county, if they ever looked at the contract between the county attorney, I would suggest that you get a county attorney that does nothing but county business. And then that way you've got someone that's there that's working for just the county only.
Well, that's where I'm kind of confused, and I hope maybe that Ms. Dawson, and, you know, some people's been here longer than me, can kind of clear the things up. Is that, so all of your representation has came through the county attorney, which is Lynn Dawson, for the past, how long?
Well, ever since we've been on the boards for the last 3 or 4 years.
And things have went,
Well, I mean, they haven't went like we thought they should have went. I mean, for example, some of our court cases in court down there that we filed out before the judge, we should have won because we had the evidence to back us up. We just don't feel like our cases were presented properly. So that cost the county several $1,000s on those cases. We just feel like we need some representation that is actually specializes in this particular part of it.
so, and I suppose that since you're asking for it, in your budget, there's a line item or
Yes, sir. There's a line
amount,
item.
what is the total amount of your
We
allotted
have a
budget?
$25,000 line item for legal fees. That's what it was there for, and we kind of anticipated needing that last year. That's why we put it in there, asked for it. And it's in there, and it's a line item, and from what we understand, that gives us the authority to go ahead and do what we're doing.
And at any time from this contract, if granted this amount of money, one that stood out to me in paragraph 2 was the retainer fee deposit is fully refundable. Any money not used for cost expenses and fees for legal services will be refunded to the Board of Tax Assessors at the conclusion of the representation. So, does that, I mean, so if in the future you feel like we can continue doing things, I mean, so I don't know, Lynn, that's what I'm trying to figure out here is how we've done it in the past and why now. I mean, but if you've had it in your budget, you know, and I approved the budget last year, I really don't have a lot of ground to tell you no when I've already said yes. I just wish, still confused to me though how one attorney can represent anyone, because at the end of the day, that would be kind of a hard task to represent both sides. I mean, because as I've spoken here before, I think there needs to be a separation between, I don't want to know what y'all are doing, don't care to know, you know, and I don't worry about me, I worry about someone in the future having some input or whatever. So, if that be the reason of your request for the money, I mean, you're a board, you're a state sanctioned board that, I just, it's a large retainer, it's a large amount, but you know, I'm sure, or I would hope that, if granted the money, you know, I'd suggest that the money be used wisely and let it bear its full potential and benefit the taxpayer, and I hope that's what y'all are out for, you know, at the end of the day, that's what I hope. That's all I have.
So, yes, sir, Gary, does this have anything to do with the upcoming, partner revenue?
No,
We're having-
no, it doesn't really have anything to do with that. That's, you know, that's just the performance review that's coming on, that's, you know, that has nothing to do with that. This is for things that, cases that are coming on and cases that, you know, we've dealt with a little bit and we know there's more coming, and, you know, we just feel like it's time that we have some representation that deals with just what we're doing, because a lot of times we can't get our answers in a timely manner. Like I say, Lynn's a good attorney, it's not a problem with her. It's just she doesn't specialize in this particular field, so we need someone that does.
Do you feel now that you're not represented?
Well, I mean, we're represented, but, you know, I feel like we could be represented better.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Simply because I'm dealing with the budgets and whatnot, if this is granted and you get the $18,000, and it's just a retainer fee, that doesn't carry over into next year?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, if next year we have appeals and say that a judge has issued a judgment against us and we have to pay legal fees out of that, then where are we going to be at that point? We won't have enough money in the budget next year to pay out judgment. Last year we had to pay out $18,000 in judgments for the tax assessor, from the tax assessor's budget.
Might not have had to do that if we had another attorney.
But that's just your opinion.
That's your opinion.
That's your opinion, and that's not what the judge.
Well, there would be a few $1,000s left in our budget for that purpose.
But right now it's $25,000. If we had another incident of the $18,000 or $20,000, then we're not going to have enough money.
Well, put the money in our budget then.
I don't suggest we do that.
Mr. Whitehead, how long you been on this board?
I'm not sure, a couple, 3 years.
3 years?
Maybe.
David, you've been on it, you just got reappointed.
Yeah, I'm in my, finished out a term, and that would be,
Well, it doesn't,
3 or 4. It's
you've
about,
been there a while.
yeah,
What I'm getting at is neither one of you gentlemen have come to my office and said, hey, we got a big problem here, Mr. Chairman. We got a big problem here. Our county attorney is not doing what we need to do. Not one. And I think you're wanting this $18,000, you're letting history gauge the future. You spent $18,000 last time. And like you said, there's still 8 cases unsettled. And I find it hard to approve this $18,000 myself. That's the way I feel. I think we should table this thing, a little more discussion, and maybe get together and talk a little bit. I'm gonna make the motion, we table it.
What,
Do I?
I need to ask a question. So, and we already out of the budget. I mean, what you're asking for now, this money's gonna come out of this year's budget.
Right.
That's correct.
So you haven't spent anything out of your legal,
Not yet.
and your complete line item is 25.
Right.
So the budget we just passed, there was another 25 in it as well.
That's correct.
So what you're asking for now is this $18,000, which is going to be taken out of this year's budget.
Right, right.
And if needed, I mean, is this statement of $18,000 going to be a recurring cost every year, do y'all think? I mean, what,
No,
can you
not
kind of
really.
give us a,
Well, that all depends on how the cases come in and out, but no, we don't really know. That's just the retainer to retain them now, and as we use out of that, they would ask that we replenish that, and then at some point, when we sever our contract with them, they reimburse back to the county.
Do you think with this, you can clear up the cases that's pending out there?
Yeah, pretty sure we can.
You've got, what, 8 cases you said?
Yeah. We've got 3 more coming. We got 3 other cases coming we know of. And we're gonna still have
You think this
7,000.
amount of money will clear all that off the board?
We're pretty sure it will, yeah.
how confident are y'all in that? That the budgeted amount of 25,000 can clear up these pending issues? I mean, if we're talking about 2010, that's almost 4 years, that's a long time. Do y'all feel pretty confident, or?
Yeah, I feel confident that we can.
But they don't really know, I don't think, at this point in time, who's gonna appeal to any, that sort of thing. Like I said, I think, I make a motion to table this thing, go back to this, folks from Atlanta come up, and go through this thing on December 17th, 16th, 17th, 18th, whatever it is. And then after that, however they feel, and all, then we'll address this one more time. And approve it or disapprove it. So I made the motion, do I hear a second?
I personally don't see how, and this may be me just being you, I personally don't see how if their board feels the need to do this. I mean, this is kind of that separation I've spoke of before. If you feel like you need to do this, and I've approved your budget, it's hard for me to tell you no, because I don't want that influence on your office. Now, that's just how I feel about it. You know, now I hope you're going to use the money with good stewards if you were to get it, you know, but that's all I can do. I don't need to be sitting here telling you yay or nay as a board that is, you know, you're your own entity, because if I start doing that, what else can I do? You know, I could go into every department, I guess, and I didn't know as a post commissioner, I had that authority to tell the Board of Assessors. Now, do I think everything goes great in the Board of Assessors? Not everything, you know what I mean? But there's every department things can be done better. I just don't think I can sit here after approving you for $25,000 and deny you on 18 to where I don't even know what it is y'all do, and I don't need to know what it is y'all do. I just hope that the decision y'all are making is to need this money is equitable for the taxpayers. That's what I hope.
We wouldn't be making this request if we didn't feel strongly that we need to do this.
Anything else?
No, I'm thankful, man. Larry, have you got anything? I'm trying to.
Like the low end, go from.
I'll say make a motion to table this till after the appraisers from Atlanta came up. Then we'll see it if they find everything's up to snuff, we'll approve it.
That's what we're requesting right
Get
now.
approved.
It's the third motion.
December, that's next week. Like I say, I have a tough time. You guys, come in my office anytime. It's open. If you just come in there and said something, we'd had a good meeting, and we wouldn't be sitting here today if you guys need $18,000 legal fee.
Well, what we're asking for today, Bill, has nothing to do with this review coming up next week. Has nothing to do with that at all.
All right. Like I said, you spent $18,000 over this year in appeal and that sort of thing. But okay, anyway, I make the motion. I don't hear a second.
Over this year, you spent $18,000?
The last year.
That was an expenditure. It was 18,000, I think, 600 and something dollars that was expended out of their legal fees last year for judgments. And that's what that line item is entailed for, is for assessment, judgments against assessments. Is what that line item, legal fee, is actually supposed to be.
Is that 11 or 12?
That is 2012, is when it was, that's when it was expended, for 2012. This is 2013.
So their
We're asking
budget,
for it.
if they, okay, I'm sorry, I've got my years.
Yeah. See, nothing's
Alright,
been
so
before a
for
judge this
2012,
year.
they expended $18,000
Correct.
in judgments and,
Judgments and legal fees for a loss on a case that was sold.
And just for the record, we won the cases this year. That's why they didn't.
That's why there's
spend
no
anything.
bid,
We
yeah.
won the cases this year.
I don't know, I can't, if your board feels that strongly about needing this money representation, I mean, I don't feel like it's in my best interest to be telling you no because of the separations of the office. So, I mean, and I approved the money, and once I approved it, I didn't know I'd get to look over it again and, say, well, what do you need? As long as this doesn't have anything to do with the upcoming Department of Revenue audit.
No, it has nothing to do.
So for the
with it.
record, I'm asking if this money has anything to do with the audit coming up.
And for the record, we're
response?
saying absolutely not. Has nothing to do with this review coming up. We're
Since that
requesting
being
this
already-
money.
Your opinion as well, Mr. Lewis?
Yes, the review has nothing to do, as far as I know, there's no legal issues that are involved in that. That's the Department of Revenue does that, and has nothing to do with
Because that's what,
our
a
representation.
person would be skeptical of,
I
as,
understand. No,
that, I mean, I
has
myself wondered that.
nothing to
So,
do with that.
as two board members of the Board of Assessors, you feel, you're stating that it has nothing to do.
So it has nothing to do with that at all. At all.
If that be the case, then I couldn't deny your request.
Okay, you're making a motion to approve it?
I would make the motion to approve it.
We have a motion to approve the $18,000. Do you hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.